Your iPhone is a pretty remarkable piece of technology, and it's going to get even more remarkable in a couple of months when iOS 16 launches. But while we wait for that, there's loads of things that your iPhone can do that I reckon the average iPhone user will have no idea about. So that's what we're going to talk about in this video, 10 amazing things that your iPhone can do that most people won't be aware of. Stick with me until the end of the video. I reckon there's at least a couple of tips in here that will catch most people by surprise. Okay, let's get into it. You can use your iPhone to identify things like plants, thanks to the iPhone's exceptional machine learning capabilities. To do this, open the camera app and take a photo of whatever it is you'd like to identify. So you can see here that I've taken a photo of some flowers in a vase in our kitchen. Now, if the photo that you've taken is something that your phone recognizes, the I or information button shown here will look different. For context, here's a photo that the iPhone doesn't recognize, and you can see how the I button looks. But here on the photo of the flowers, notice the kind of sparkle around the eye icon. Tap there, and then you've got this lookup section. The iPhone has already identified that this is a plant, and there's an icon on the image to show you what the iPhone is referring to. Tap on lookup, and your iPhone will run a search to both identify the plant and to give you additional information. So here, the iPhone has correctly identified that this is a peony, and I can click on any of these Siri knowledge tabs to learn more. Then down at the bottom, we've got some images from the web. Clever, right? Now look, I'm expecting people to comment saying that they've tried this and that Siri got the identification wrong, and yes, that's probably to be expected. Sometimes it's not always going to get every identification correct, but I was doing this around our home and garden yesterday and it seemed to be pretty accurate. It works for other things also. Here's a photo of a scenic view over LA that I captured while we were on holiday recently, and the iPhone recognizes this and can give me the exact location where this photo was taken. Here's a photo of a dog, and whilst it gets the breed of the dog wrong, it does offer photos of the correct breed of dog. It's a cool feature with lots of potential uses, and if you find an interesting use case for this, do drop me a comment and let me know about it. I've talked about live text in previous videos, but I'm going to mention it here again as I think it's a feature many people aren't really aware of. Simply hold your phone up with the camera app enabled and point it at some text out there in the real world. Your phone will identify the text, and you know this has happened when you see this icon on the camera screen. Simply tap it to select the text. With the text selected, you can copy it and then paste it as computer text, so you could drop this into a note or a Word document or anything like that. And in my experience, this is pretty versatile and will work with all manner of text, even including handwriting, so long as it's fairly legible. Following on from the previous tip, live text works with text in a wide number of languages, so I can capture text in a different language and use my iPhone to immediately translate it for me. So here, for example, on the back of this contact lens box, we've got some non-English text, and if I hold my phone up and open the camera app, you can see that we can capture this text just like we did previously, and I could copy this text like before. But then, if I tap the translate button, my phone will translate this text for me. Obviously, if you're traveling or if you just find yourself quite often in a situation where you need to be able to work with text that's not in your native language, this is an extremely useful tool. If you ever need to give your iPhone to a child, say you want to let them play a game on your phone, you'd probably also like to ensure that they're not able to press the home button and start randomly opening other apps. Well, your iPhone has the ability to lock it to just the one app, and switching the functionality on is actually really easy. Open Settings, then Accessibility, then Guided Access, and ensure that you switch it on. Then open an app. I'm going to do this with YouTube. Then on an iPhone like this with a full screen, tap the power button on the right 3 times. On an iPhone like this with the home button at the bottom, tap the home button 3 times. If you tap on Options in the bottom left, you can choose which functions you'd like the user to have or not have access to. Switching off touch, for example, would mean that anything that the user presses on the screen wouldn't register, so if you were letting your child view a video, for example, this would stop them from being able to skip ahead or rewind or pause, as well as locking itself to the app. Disabling the volume button would stop them from being able to change the volume. Time limit is pretty useful. It lets you set a time limit, and at the end of that time limit, the phone will display a message letting you know that the device is locked out. So if you were letting your kid play a game for 30 minutes, for example, this is a surefire way of ensuring that they can't go over. Once you press start, you'll input a passcode. This is what allows you to lock your phone out and, importantly, unlock it when you're done. The app will function as normal, but you'll notice that if I swipe up on my iPhone 13 or if I press the home button here on my iPhone SE, neither of them work. I'm stuck in the app. I also can't lock the phone screen. The phone is literally locked to the app that I've currently got open. When you want to return to normal, triple click the same button that you used to begin guided access, and so long as you input the correct passcode, the phone will return to normal. It's a really handy feature, and not just for giving your phone to kids. I recently was at a function where I wanted the venue to be able to play a music playlist from my phone, and whilst I was happy giving them the phone for the afternoon, I wanted to lock them into the Spotify app so that someone couldn't just come in and access any of my other apps. This tip made that possible. Did you know that you can add captions to your photos? To do this, simply open a photo in the Photos app and swipe up to bring up the additional information related to that photo. Notice here that you've got a text box that says Add a caption. Tap in there and you can add a caption, or multiple captions, or even hashtags if you wish. Now, why would you want to do this, you might ask? Because your iPhone will include captions in searches, so anything that you input here is searchable when you're looking through your photos later on. Now, your iPhone is pretty smart and can already figure out a lot about your photos without you getting involved. The app can tell if there's a car in the photo, or if you're on holiday, or if it thinks it's a picture of a party or a wedding, for example. If you don't believe me, just try searching for words like that and see what comes up. But your phone is using machine learning to do that, and it's not going to be 100% accurate. Captions and tags allow you a greater control of how you manage your photos, so if you're someone with a lot of photos, it's definitely worth trying this particular tip out. iPhones have been getting bigger and bigger in recent years, especially if you opt for the Pro Max variety, but even a phone like this, my iPhone 13 Pro, is pretty large if you're like me and have pretty small hands. It's not really an issue when you're using your phone with both hands, but what about when you're using your phone one-handed and you're trying to use your thumb to tap things up at the top of the phone screen? Well, good news, you can use an accessibility feature to make this much easier. Head into Settings, then choose Accessibility, then choose Touch, and ensure that Reachability is toggled on. Then, when you're using your phone, swipe down in the bottom part of your screen. I'd say that you need to be swiping around the bottom 1/8 of the screen in order for this to work, and it does take a bit of practice to get this right. But you can see here that once you've got this, you'll be able to swipe down and bring the top of the display down enough so that you can then tap on something at the top of the screen without having to awkwardly reposition your hand. This should also work on smaller phones with a home button, where I believe a double tap of the home button works instead of the swiping gesture. Your iPhone has software built in to allow it to identify music that's playing, whether that's music that's on TV or even music that's playing in the background, like at a bar or restaurant. Now, your phone is using its built-in microphone to do this, so the clearer the audio, the better, but it really does work. To access this function, head into Settings, then Control Center, and ensure that music recognition is added to your control center. Then, whenever you hear some music that you'd like to identify, open Control Center and tap the music recognition icon. Then hold your phone's microphone as close to the music source as you can. It takes around 5 to 10 seconds for your phone to do its thing, but hopefully your phone will come back with an answer for you, giving you the name of the artist and the song. What's also really helpful is if you hold the icon down for a second, you can view your history. So if you identified something while you were out, but forgot to make a note of it, don't worry, you can come back to it later on. Oh, and one last thing to show you here that's kind of related. Your iPhone doesn't just have music detection, it also has noise detection, which is also enabled in the control center. With this enabled, your phone will continuously listen out for certain sounds and alert you if it hears them. Things like fire, a siren or smoke alarms, or a door knocking, or a dog barking, or a baby crying. There's lots of options that you can choose from. Great if you're hard of hearing, and would appreciate having your iPhone lend a listening ear for you. This feature doesn't work on every iPhone. You need either an iPhone SE or an iPhone 6S or newer, and it does work better on the more modern iPhones that have LiDAR, like the latest iPhone 13 Pros, but your phone can be used to measure things in the real world. So for example, if I wanted to measure this acoustic treatment tile that I've got on my wall, I would open the Measure app on my iPhone and then point it at the tile. You can see that the phone recognizes this as an object, and if I tap the plus icon whilst this is selected, it will automatically give me all relevant measurements for it. Alternatively, I can tap somewhere on a wall, for example, to create a starting point, and then move across and tap again to create an end point, and the phone will measure the distance between the 2 points. You can add multiple measurements all in one session. I can also tap this little camera shutter button at any time to take a photo of whatever I'm looking at, complete with the measurements I've taken, which is obviously super handy. And it's really accurate too. When measuring this wall, it got it pretty much bang on. It's impressive stuff, and you can imagine that when you're out and about and a tape measure perhaps isn't available, this is going to be an extremely helpful tip to know. A quick follow-up tip from the previous one: once you're in the Measure app, you've got this level button down at the bottom right. Tap on that and you can use your iPhone as a spirit level. Now, a bit like the Measure tool, if I were a tradesperson, I wouldn't use this in place of a professional tool like a proper spirit level, but if you're in a bind and need to quickly check the level of something and all you've got is your iPhone, this is a super handy little tip to know about. You can track your iPhone thanks to the Find My app. You probably already knew that. It's the same app that lets you track things like AirTags or your AirPods or your MacBook, helping you to retrieve items if they get lost or stolen. But an issue with this is that by default, if your phone gets switched off, it's no longer able to be tracked. However, you can amend this in Settings. Open Settings and click on your Apple ID up here at the top. Then choose Find My, and where it says Find My iPhone, tap there. Ensure that all the options here are toggled on. It's this middle one that's going to help you out. You can see that the phone will continue to be visible on the Find My network for a while, even when the power is switched off. To check that this has worked, begin initiating a power shutdown, and you'll see here where it says iPhone findable after power off. If you've got that message, you'll be able to locate your iPhone on the Find My network, even if the power is turned off. So there you go, 10 amazing things that your iPhone can do that I reckon most people won't have known about. What about you? Any other amazing things that you use your iPhone for that I've not covered in this video? Drop me a comment and let's talk about it. And as ever, if you found this video useful, do please consider leaving me a like and subscribing to my channel for more content like this in the future. See you on the next video.